All right, so here's what I would like you to do for this weekend's project. I want you to be able to, using Angular, we're going to be able to add some products here for Northwind. So a product has a name and it has a priority. So if we go over here, here's foo with a priority of 1. I could end up adding bar with a priority of 2. If I try to put something in that doesn't make sense, like a priority that's not a number, I should end up getting an error. If I end up not putting in a name, I should end up getting an error. And here we'll say Baz. And let's say we went in here and we'll say Baz has a priority of 1 as well. So one of the things that you're seeing here is that your sorting order of your items is based on the priority. So let's say, for instance, that we wanted to have Baz be the top priority item. We wanted it to appear first. We could end up doing this, and we would see that Baz is going to have the first slot, and it's going to give me new numbers for the priorities. What I would do is I would focus on getting the items in there rather than focusing on the priority at first, and then take a stab at how you would go about modifying the priorities of the items, which is a little bit trickier. But if you just got to the point where you could add items with a priority, that they would show up here sorted by priority. And the other thing I think you should be able to do pretty easily is to delete something. So we could delete this, and go and re-add them. So if I gave foo a priority of 99 and I gave bar a priority of 3, bar would be on the top, but again, if I wanted to reorder them, they would end up getting reordered. And again, I don't really care what the number of the priority is. I'm showing it here. I really just care what the order is. You could actually see if I do a hard reload, that order ends up getting maintained. So doing the up and the other thing here is, again, if you end up getting into it, it doesn't make sense that we would have an up arrow on the first one. It doesn't make sense that we would have a down arrow on the bottom one. It also doesn't make sense that we'd have any sorting if, in fact, we only have one item. But once we start adding items here, we could do this. And I think the way that I set this up, I think if I don't put in any priority, I'm not positive of that. Yeah, if I don't put in any priority, I have a default priority of 5. So take a stab at it. I think it's an interesting one to do. I think that by sort of setting up the Angular app on its own, it'll give you a little bit of context of how the Juke workshop is set up. I'll tell you one thing to sort of look out for, and you don't have to use Swig here. You could do what we're doing in the Juke workshop, which is to basically send out a static index file, which is what's being done in the Juke workshop. You could do that. If you do use Swig, just be aware that if you end up using Angular's braces within a Swig template, they get handled by Swig, which you don't want them to. But there's a quick way around that. You have to surround your Angular braces with raw and an end raw, the same way that you would end up doing a block and an end block. You have to surround it with the tags raw, RAW, meaning that you don't want it to get processed, and an end raw. But you could look that up. I mean, I wasn't even aware of it until I ended up doing this. But again, you don't necessarily have to use Swig for this. And I think the thing to do to make it a little bit easier is to focus on your routes first. So at a minimum, you want to set up your models. You want to have your routes that end up returning a list of products. If you just focused on the inserting and deleting, set up the routes for getting your items, for inserting an item, and for removing an item. And after that, then you could sort of focus on how you would end up updating items by modifying their priority and that sort of thing. But I would do that last. I would really worry about that last. And good luck with it. All right. I also have a wireframe here, but I don't think you need it because this is going to be more helpful than the wireframe. Plus, I think on the wireframe I put in price, which is incorrect. So I don't think you really need this wireframe. This would actually be priority instead of price. but you get the idea of moving these up and down. This is actually off too because, again, shouldn't be an up arrow here and there shouldn't be a down arrow here. So this should be helpful. If I have a chance, I'll actually post this up so you could, deploy it somewhere so you could take a look at it. And that's really about it.